back on the Zero Hour. I'm your host, Richard RJ Eskow. We have now officially entered the lame duck session of the current Congress, which leaves office at the end of the year in January. A Republican-led Congress will take, a House of Representatives, I should say, specifically, will take over. The Senate will remain in Democratic hands. Big question for this lame duck session is what will be done about the debt ceiling. Here to talk with us about the debt ceiling and why it matters very much for everybody listening to this program is Alex Lawson. Alex, as you probably know from his previous visits here and elsewhere as well, Alex is the executive director of Social Security Works and so much more, but we'll stick with that for now. And we're going to, as you know, Social Security Works is very involved in the issue of protecting social insurance in this country, including Medicare as well, and Medicaid and other programs, as well as Social Security. So with that long-winded introduction aside, Alex Lawson, welcome back to the Zero Hour.
Thanks for having me, Richard. You know, I love talking to you and your audience. And this is one of those issues that really we need more people talking about. It's sort of like the pretend thing out there is that it's very complicated, but it is the opposite of complicated. It's a very simple story to tell. And, you know, I really appreciate your ability to do that, to break through and be like, no, it's not hard. They literally just want to destroy your Social Security. That's all you need to remember.
Well, and as you know, Alex, I have a great interest in this. I wrote an article for the American Prospect on how they've been trying to destroy it since 1935 and how open they're being, and you've talked about it as well, about their plans for it. Even though people do not want it cut, they are absolutely shameless in saying, and blatant about saying, whether it's on a video from the House Ways and Means Committee or whether it's various Republican senators. And of course, Mitch McConnell will say, oh, well, we wouldn't really do that. But they have basically said, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but they've basically said, look, if we get the House, which they've got, we are going to hold the debt ceiling hostage for Social Security and probably Medicare cuts as well. This is what we plan to do. And so this is not a hypothetical, but it's hard for people to grasp it because debt ceiling, parliamentary rules, all that. It's complicated. So what's the debt ceiling?
It's a really good setup. And I just think also we should add in, John Thune said it yesterday. So Mitch McConnell can say, oh, yeah, we're not going to do that. But John Thune, who's the number 2 in the Senate, was definitely like, this is what we are doing. We are going to hold the debt ceiling hostage and we're going to extract cuts to Social Security and anything else they can get their hands on because of it. That's sort of one of the important things is when they say we're going to cut Social Security, that's like their top priority. It's the hardest thing to cut because of just the natural reaction to it and also process issues that it's literally hard for them to get their greedy little fingers on. And so when they say that, what they mean is we're going to hurt people in any way we can. So you remember, I'll go through the debt ceiling, but we've seen this before. And although they did not cut Social Security because we were able to fight them off that, the compromise that they got was devastating, right? I mean, that's when we heard of the sequester. And all of a sudden, you couldn't spend money on critical programs. And there were cuts to Medicare within what's called mandatory programs. So, I mean, they exact pain. They aim for Social Security because it's the highest. And we have to really be forceful in saying, like, a compromise that results in cuts like that, that's not a win. that's a loss. That's a loss to the Republicans. A win here is just a clean raising of the debt ceiling with absolutely no cuts to anything. Why should this be? Because the debt ceiling is stupid to begin with. It doesn't even make any sense. No one else has it. You don't need it. It's just like a weird trick that only happens here. It has nothing to do with spending money. The money has already been spent. That's what happens. And Republicans know this. Republicans vote to raise the debt ceiling every single time there's a Republican in office. The only time they do this is when there's a Democrat in office, and they have the ability to do it by controlling the House. So all it does is it literally holds the world economy hostage unless they get what they want, which is cuts to Social Security. The last time they did this under President Obama, just the fight alone led to the downgrading of U.S. sovereign debt by a ratings agency. And it's stupid that the ratings agencies rate sovereign debt in the first place, but they did downgrade it, and it caused enormous economic consequences at a very similar economic point in time where there were a lot of headwinds at that time as there are now. So the very real possibility of this kicking off a recession or otherwise a huge economic cost are very high. That's what the Republicans are threatening to do unless the Democrats give them cuts to Social Security. And like I said, or any other things that they can get their greedy little hands on.
So basically, the United States, it borrows as well as spends. It decides, makes the decision democratically through its government processes to spend money on anything, whether it's a so-called mandatory program like Social Security, where the benefits are defined for everybody who gets them, or it's $1 trillion for war, whatever it is. And then we're the only country in the world, as far as I know, that then comes back and says, oh, but we're really not going to authorize paying those due bills. I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but that's, the result is either a massive financial disaster, as you say, for the global economy, and then for the United States, it may be that the cost of borrowing, which has been extraordinarily low for a long time, goes up, which costs everybody. So they're basically using this archaic, weird law to force through policies that the public doesn't want. And I would say for too long, or at least for a period of time, Democrats like Obama were willing to say, well, we can come to some responsible solution here. No, the responsible solution is to protect and expand these programs. But they've been very clear. They know the public hates the idea of cutting these programs. They want to do it anyway. The only way they can do it and not eliminate their political futures forever is with this kind of hostage taking. But for the rest of the year, the House remains in Democratic hands. Nancy Pelosi is still Speaker of the House, will be for a little while now, for the next month. The House, since the debt ceiling was created by law, they can pass a law eliminating it. They can raise it to zillion dollars, so it's no longer an issue. They can do all kinds of things to prevent it. And in this case, specifically to protect Social Security and Medicare, which Republicans are gunning for. So why haven't they done it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. In this town of DC, you often get really dumb answers to very simple questions of like, this is an existential threat. Why can't we just do this? And it's like, well, because. And then very often recently has ended with, Joe Manchin or some other Democrat, Kirsten Sinema. But right now it's Joe Manchin. He said, he wants a bipartisan panel to look at what he is going to call entitlement spending. And when he did that, that was a clear indication he was saying that to take partisanly raising the debt ceiling off the table. But this is also a normal back and forth in DC because it leaves open a path to bipartisanly doing it, which they did before in 2021. They got 60 votes, so it included 10 Republicans, to give the Democrats the ability to raise the debt ceiling using a simple majority. And if you remember that, it sort of is okay in Manchin and Sinema's brain because it preserves the idiotic power of the filibuster, and which only means you're handing, the power to Mitch McConnell. Right. So unfortunately, in this scenario, Mitch McConnell is the decider of if he can get those 10 votes. And Mitch McConnell might get the 10 votes because he's actually scared of the literal crazy people who are coming in and taking over the House. And he doesn't trust them to not actually. So just a bit of backstory. When the Tea Party took over in 2010, they acted crazy. But there was a thinking in DC that they wouldn't actually take the world economy off of a cliff. They just wanted to exact as much pain from Obama as possible and to make him as unpopular as possible so that he would lose in 2012. That's the exact same game plan they're playing today. They want to hurt the economy enough that people are very angry, and that hurts President Biden in the upcoming presidential. But the change here is that the incoming Republicans in the House are, they're Trumpists. There's a bunch of them who want to tank the global economy. They want to cause a global recession, and then they'll call it Biden's recession. And, their people might even believe that. They see the way into authoritarian takeover as causing mass disruption first. So Mitch McConnell looks at that, and Mitch McConnell is like the most dangerous politician in DC because he's so good at this stuff. This stuff is doing horrible things for his billionaire paymasters. But in this case, I think that the House brand of Republican is too much for him. So, or might be. But, having to rely on Mitch McConnell for anything, Richard, as you know, is like, that's a surefire way to lose. So the Democrats also have the ability to raise the debt ceiling using 51 votes, using reconciliation. That is a possibility. So right now, there's a bit of wishful thinking saying that, Mitch McConnell is going to get those 10 votes, and then we can do it in this bipartisan fashion. And then on the other hand, it's too hard to do it with reconciliation because we don't have enough time. When in fact, they can just keep they literally have as much time as they give themselves. It's a self-governing body. So they can keep people in as long as they want. But basically they're not going to. It does not seem that way. Right now, I think there is a somewhat of a momentum saying, let's get this done in the lame duck in the final session of this Congress. Because of Senator Thune's statement yesterday, there's a renewed flurry of activity, but it's going to take a lot more grassroots pressure to actually get this done, to get the White House to lean on Leader Schumer. Speaker Pelosi is generally saying some good things. She's saying it is happening after the spending bill, but we really need to focus on Leader Schumer, on Senator Schumer in the Senate.
Well, yeah, it seems to me they're staking a lot on this sort of, what do you call it, theoretical on the chance that they might do something bipartisanly, which I assume they feel is politically safer, right? I mean, that they feel more comfortable politically if they can say, well, we did this with the Republicans, otherwise they'll be attacked for spending. I don't know exactly what their fear is, but they want to do this with the Republicans if they can, but they run the risk, of time, and especially if their Senate's not willing to stay in session. Maybe Alex Lawson, maybe you can translate this tweet for me that came out today on the debt ceiling. And this is from Eric Watson, who covers the Hill, covers Congress I believe, for Bloomberg. He says, Speaker Pelosi says omnibus spending package for 2023 takes priority over raising the debt ceiling, given limited time in December. Hopes for bipartisan debt ceiling increase. Why do they increase?
Yeah, I mean, cryptic tweets and having to try to discern their meaning is definitely part of my job. I think there's a few ways of reading that, but one of them, and it is one that I'm hearing sort of around town, is it's good that she's sequencing it and not saying, which is saying omnibus first, debt ceiling second, because previously it had been there's not enough time, so the sequence was omnibus. It was actually rail strike omnibus were the two things. So it is a change. Part of it is because reporters are asking because of Senator Thune's comments. And so, Manchin was asked yesterday, Pelosi asked today. So they're forced to have an answer. But that answer also leaves open the path to the bipartisan solution that I talked about, where there's in the omnibus, so in the spending bill, there's a rider attached to that spending bill. The spending bill has to get 60 votes to pass. In that bill that has 60 votes, meaning 10 Republicans are voting for it, and it's for a lot of things. So it's harder to attack any one senator for voting for one of the things when there's a bunch of stuff in there. That's one of the tricks of DC because of the filibuster. It's why everything gets sort of mushed together into one thing. But also, it does give them this little bit of protection. But doing that is a bipartisan solution to the debt ceiling. So that, and this one would be super outside the realm of possibility because you'd need some sort of bipartisan thing in the House next Congress and something in the Senate. So that one, she's saying, oh, yeah, I talked to Marjorie Taylor Greene and she seems to be, coming around to our point of view that, the space lasers aren't real, right? I mean, so
in other words, maybe in the omnibus spending bill, they'll put something in that addresses the debt ceiling issue and protect Social Security and Medicare?
Correct. And it'll allow the Democrats to raise the debt ceiling with a simple majority. And that is, you importantly come around. We've spent a bunch of minutes going through the innards of this, which I think is important for, your audience who are following this. But the truth is, it really is way more simple than everything that I just said. This is just a fight. It's just a street fight between the Republicans who are dead set on cutting Social Security. And it's like, I don't care what process you use. I know about them because it's my job to know about them. But I don't care what process you use to deny these attacks on Social Security. It's just critical that you do them now when you have the power to stop. And I don't care about any excuses about, oh, it's long or it's hard or, the very complex, da-da-da-da-da. No, they're saying they're going to cut our Social Security. People voted for Democrats explicitly because Democrats said they're going to protect Social Security. So now Democrats protect Social Security from the Republicans who are at a level that I've never seen before, more open about their plans to just reach their hands into our pockets and steal our earned benefits. Because that's all it is. When we say cut our benefits, just reminder, it's our money. No one gives us Social Security. I see it coming out of my paycheck. It's mine. So if they're going to cut it, all that means is that's Senator Thune or Senator McConnell, it's the Republicans reaching their hand in my pocket and stealing my money. So yes, Democrats, whatever it takes to keep the Republicans from stealing my money, that's what we need you to do. That's my simple assessment of things.
So, for example, my congressmen and my senators are Democrats. A lot of people listening will be in the same position, and of course others will not. But boiling this all down, seems to me I should be letting my senators and my representative know that I'm aware there's a fight over Social Security, that I'm counting on you. It's a street fight. I'm counting on you to get in there and start swinging and not be telling me it's complicated or it's hard or you want to get home for Christmas. That we all want to get home for Christmas, but we won't be much of a Christmas in a few years if we don't have Social Security or Medicare. It seems to me that one of the grassroots actions we need, maybe most important, I don't know, you tell me, is people calling up. And if my representative was a Republican, say, I don't want to hear that you blocked the chance to protect Social Security. It seems to me like people should be getting on the horn. I don't think they call it the horn anymore because it's a effing cell phone, but should be calling, writing, and saying, I'm watching this, I'm watching you. I want you to get in there and fight, shouldn't they?
Yeah, that's the number one thing that people should be doing right now. Contacting your electeds, both your senators and your representative, regardless if they're Democrats, Republicans, and just telling them exactly what you said. I need you to fight against attempts to cut Social Security. And I don't care about excuses or explanations of it being difficult. I don't care how you do it. You promised me that you'd protect Social Security, and I'm watching and I'm counting on you to do that. And we do have a lot of great people in there who are ready to fight, way more, Richard, as you remember, than we did in 2010 when the Tea Party came in on this. And they came in at a way stronger level, right? It was a way bigger wave than what just happened here. The Republicans have a razor thin majority. McCarthy is going to have a hard time becoming speaker, and all those dynamics are right now. So this is the perfect time for Democrats to remove this play from the Republicans' playbook. And we have the numbers to do it. It just has to be communicated that this is a priority. So yes, grassroots pressure is the key here.
And then another side of it, while we're encouraging grassroots pressure, and we're both saying that, you should definitely reach out and do this. The other side of it is for people like you and me who communicate. You're on the Hill a lot more than I am, but to the extent that any of us have a voice in political circles, that we should be saying, look, guys, and I use that term non-gender specifically, look, folks, we know you got elected in large part on this issue, that if you don't do something and the Republicans turn around and cut these programs next year, it's not just going to hurt them, it's going to hurt you, because that's my take on it. My take is that people are going to say, I voted for Democrats. I didn't see my Democrat out there protecting my Social Security or my other program. Now it's being cut. And where were they when I needed them? And I think that's a message that maybe every politician in DC needs to understand.
Absolutely. Because we saw what happened, right? We've been through this before. When the win is this compromise that is just really catastrophic cuts. But that's not a win. They need to raise the debt ceiling with no cuts at all. I don't want Meals on Wheels to get cut. That was one of them back in the day. It's like, right, this is just not acceptable. And the Democrats have the ability, they have the power to stop it. And so they need to use it. Otherwise, why should people actually believe their promises when they come around? On the other hand, this is a huge winner. And President Biden has been on the right side of this, right? The Democrats were on the right side of this running in the campaign. And I think they want to be on the right side of this going into 2024. Kevin McCarthy's razor thin majority is also a very possible 2-year majority. That's it. And then there is possibly going to be another governing section, right? Another part of unified Democratic control where they control both houses of Congress and the White House and can pass more legislation. And the shortest path to accomplishing that is following through on the promises made to seniors that Democrats are going to protect Social Security, right? It's as simple as that. So all of the pieces are there, and it really should be a pretty straightforward, easy layup. But Richard, the reason that I am here is because often there's a lot of money in pretending that these very simple, straightforward things are just too hard to get done or but it's very complicated, right? That's a very normal way of getting out of doing things that are not complicated. Here's what it is. The Republicans want to rob me. The Democrats said they were going to stop the Republicans from robbing me. So stop the Republicans from robbing me. Protect our Social Security and everything else that we've earned. It's ours. No one's giving it to us. So simple as that. And I have some expectation that we'll get a win. If we don't raise it in this final session of Congress, we're going to fight it out next time. And I think we'll win. It's either win now, win then. I'm not prepared to lose, Richard. And I see our opposition is actually faltering right now. So that now is the time to increase pressure from our side.
And which gets me to my last question I was going to ask you, Alex Lawson, which is a kind of a philosophical one.
My favorite.
Yeah, which is, okay, the Republicans are going to have the House for at least 2 years. How do you see, have you thought about what activism is going to be like during the 2 years when it's chaos and extremists? And I mean, we know how to deal with the centrists, right? We've fought them and won in the past. But what about one house full of crazies for 2 years? How does, our kind of activism fit in with that?
It's a great question. I have a possibly inappropriate reply, which is, if you've seen that meme, it's two women like fighting, and there's a guy in the background, and he has a pot pipe, and he's smoking pot pipe as he's watching this fight. And I feel like that's actually going to be, that meme is going to be a lot of what activism looks like, where it's not like a good thing, but man, are the Republicans in disarray. They are fighting. They are lunging for each other's throats. And I think a lot of the activism actually has to be stepping back a bit and letting them fight it out. And, it's not like I'm rooting for the fascists. I'm also not rooting for the corporate Republicans. I'm hoping that both of them take each other down and injure each other enough, politically speaking, that both of their bad ideas are easier to defeat. And I also think the more difficult thing we know how to play defense. So when they come at us, we punch hard back at them. And I think that they're weaker. We only have to shatter unity and split off like something like 5 Republicans. So, right, to break their ability to do stuff. And that's from either side. That's from like the Trumpist crazy side. or the, I hate to say that whatever, both are bad. But the other side there's these Republicans who were just elected in New York. They're very different than the Republicans, the Trumpist Republicans. So like we're going to be trying to mess with their ability to count to 218. And then on the Senate side, the important thing to remember is there's a lot of forward momentum that's possible there.
Right.
We only have to take the House back in order to get 3 pieces again. And so the Senate side, which is still in Democratic control, for example, Bernie Sanders is going to take over the HELP committee, which has a lot of ability to look into pharmaceutical abuses by the private insurers, stuff that is moving us forward towards our goals. And so having those 2 lanes and reminding ourselves that it is bifurcated, we have to stay on offense, moving the agenda forward in the Senate, on offense in the House, but mainly it's just hitting at the unity of the Republican caucus, so that they just can't get any of their angles off the ground.
Well, that's a really good answer, and it makes me want to invest in a number of boxes of popcorn also for the coming year as a kind of palliative for the insanity we're about to face. So Alex Lawson, Executive Director of Social Security Works, really important issue. Thanks for coming on the program and talking about it.
Thanks, Richard.
And we'll be right back after this. I'm Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero